And play.
Hey, I'm Jansen.
I'm Diego.
And Brandon.
And this is presentation 3, step by step, the complex journey through the justice system. For our main case example, we've chosen Ted Bundy, and we will kind of incorporate him into all these little parts. So the whole first bit is the initial police contact, which is like the first interactions with the suspect, where they're gathering, the beginning of information. They might be interviewing suspects or identifying possible suspects, talking to witnesses, and possibly beginning their investigation. This doesn't really play into the initial contact in the Ted Bundy case, as his was a traffic stop. Going on to legal rights, we have the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment, which the 4th Amendment being 4th protects against unlawful search and seizure. 5th is the right to remain silent, and 6th is the right to an attorney. And then discretion. Police have the discretion whether or not to take someone in or what to do with them. Once they're talking to someone, they're going to be like, all right, we're going to book you in and stuff. And then playing into Ted Bundy's example, his initial police contact was in 1975 in Utah, where he was pulled over by Utah, I think it was Highway Patrol, and he was booked as he had suspicious items in his car, like a ski mask and handcuffs and stuff like that. But yeah, that was about the kind of initial police contact with Bundy.
Yeah, then we move over to the arrest. This occurs when, we're kind of detained by an officer, based on probable cause and the belief of a crime. Like what Jansen said, when he got put over by the Highway Patrol officer, they noticed a bunch of weird items, being a ski mask, handcuffs, ice picks, multiple
Trash bags.
Yeah, trash bags. A crowbar.
It's got some crazy stuff. Gloves.
Right. Kind of like a thief's kit, I believe they call it that. So the officer got detained, and off of that, he got questioned in that, right, on why he had those items. Personally, I think he was trying to be a smart ass. I mean, he answered with the officer for the ski mask. It was for skiing, and everything else was common household items, and he found the handcuffs in the trash.
In a freaking dumpster,
yeah. I don't know if you guys would keep that, but that's some weird thing to keep.
Who knows what those were used for, man?
Exactly. And and also his passenger seat was removed, which was also kind of weird. I believe, kind of need that.
Yeah.
He drove Volkswagen Beetle.
68 Beetle.
68. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's an old Beetle, man.
not much room in there, right? But yeah, when it comes to arrest. Right, you're taken to custody. It's kind of where the process, all that fingerprint and stuff like that, it's not really started, but I guess logged. But I mean, like I said, the evidence gets gathered, and all that fun stuff, and then you kind of get transported to the jail or being held overnight, or start the process of booking. That's pretty much it for arrest, at least on Bundy, for now.
Alrighty, I have pretrial. What is pretrial? The pretrial phrase is everything that happens after someone's arrested, but before the trial begins. Key points about this is hearing, motion, lots of lawyer meetings, and also an important one was court decisions. The Bundy's pretrial was contemplated because Buddy was arrested more than once in different states. I'm gonna add more on to the last point. This means he had several pretrial phrases, not just one. One of the Buddy's pretrial was in Utah, 1975 to 1976. He was arrested for attempt kidnapping. Another one was had a lawyer and through regular pretrial hearing. And yeah.
Going building more a bit off of Diego's point before I get into mine on trial. Ted Bundy was literally coast to coast. Like, his very first crimes were in Washington State. Then he made his way all the way down, basically the whole entire country, like into Utah. I forgot the other ones he was in. Colorado, and then eventually ending up in Florida, which is, complete other side of the country.
So it was multiple states.
Yeah,
not
he
just
was
one.
literally just a whole country. Like that was another part that made him so hard to incriminate him with any crimes, was because of like the states, how many states were involved. Like, those were just a few examples. He was involved in more than just those four.
Yeah, not only that, I think most cases have like a specific detective. Now that for Ted Bundy, he had 3 main detectives, and
That's crazy.
Like,
Yeah.
every state wanted a piece of him.
Yeah.
So it's quite hard too. This wasn't his first pre-trial. This was one of many to come.
Yeah. This whole bit is on the very first interactions with police and when he was originally tried and stuff. Before
1975.
Yeah, this is 1975, and this is before he re-entered the justice system. I don't know if you can see it, but we have re-entry over here somewhere. But he was in the justice system multiple different times after escaping prison and being on the run 2 different times and stuff like that. Now going into my actual point, which is trial. There's a lot of different bits of trial. There's they're selecting the jury and trying to get an unbiased group of people to be able to judge him, which is pretty hard in Bundy's case. Maybe not as much in the early days of his crime spree as the later, where he was a serial killer. He was already a serial killer, but he was a much more publicized serial killer. So getting a unbiased group is really hard for that. And then there's opening statements, witness testimonies if there is any, cross-examination between all the different cases, which is a big part in Bundy's, because of the different states that he was at least assumed to be the perpetrator of multiple cold cases or homicides that just went unsolved. And then there's the closing arguments, last statements, and stuff like that. Then there's the jury making their decision, and then the final verdict. And then there's multiple legal rights involved in that, which is, there's you're innocent until proven guilty, and you have the right to testify or to remain silent, and you always have the right to a lawyer, which I mentioned earlier. And then impact on later stages. I feel like the trial is this either the biggest or the second biggest point in which screw ups can really mess with your whole entire case, because if you have evidence errors or poor witness credibility or prosecutors having some form of misconduct, those can lead to a mistrial or charges being dropped, which would be very bad in the case of Ted Bundy, because this guy did a lot of really awful stuff. And then going into Ted Bundy's example of getting in a trial, what he was arrested for and stuff. So, as mentioned earlier, I think it was, Diego mentioned it, 1975 in Utah was his first run-in, which I mentioned earlier as well, where he was stopped for minor traffic violations. I think he ran a couple stop signs and turned off his lights on his vehicle, which was the 68 Volkswagen Beetle, which is the least, suspect car of all time for a serial killer. It's who would expect a guy in a Beetle? Anyway, so yeah, the officer noticed suspicious items that Brandon mentioned: ski mask, ice pick, trash bags, rope, handcuffs, stuff like that. And then they took him in, booked him, and he ended up being tied to several, a specific case of the kidnapping of Carol DeRanche or something. I think that was her last name. And he was identified in a lineup of guys. And there was really a pretty good amount of evidence that he was, like, based off the items he had in his car, witness statement, being identified by a witness or a victim, I think in this case is what it was. And after being tried in trial, he was found guilty, and then he ended up being sentenced to 1 to 15 years in the Utah State Prison.
Then we got down to sentencings, kind of where the criminal gets to, pay their dues in a way. Right? It's because when they get convicted, and right, it was when the judge says you're guilty. There are multiple different types of sentencing. There is fines, probation, community service, of course, jail time or incarceration. If you're, well, it wasn't in this case, but if you're an addict, there's programs for that.
Rehab.
And then if you, I guess you also need help coming back. There's rehabilitation. That's the word. Yeah.
Rehab.
So before what Jansen said, sorry. There you go. I can talk tonight. Before he said about being sentenced to that 15-year jail time, he was actually he was bailed for, his parents bailed him out for $1,500. Not 50, 15,000. Sorry, 15,000. He got bailed the first time.
That makes way more sense.
And it's like.
And back then, this is a lot of money, so
yeah,
it's a big deal.
I was gonna say his parents definitely love him, especially like. If I was kidnapping people, my parents wouldn't bail me out. I'm screwed.
Right. But yeah, then later on he got he got caught again. And then he got resentenced to jail time, being 1 to 15. And I think he got later on. They kind of caught him in a bush trying to escape or hiding escapee items, apparently he had a road map and all that stuff to escape. And then he was in solitary confinement. We kind of talked about this recently about the different prison types, right? There's minimum, maximum,
supermax.
Yeah.
And then there's
some more.
There's 4 of them. There was 4 of them, I think, that he mentioned.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different types of prisons. Not prison, but whatever the word is. There's multiple types, and so
That's basically what it is.
yeah. So he was in solitary confinement for a bit, just because they caught him trying to, I guess, escape. And that's pretty much it for sentencing, at least for now.
I had the last one. How you say that? In court.
Incarceration.
Or both.
Basically booked. Most important key points. Ted Bundy was sent to death row in Florida after being found guilty. Another one was he lived under very, very strict security because in the past he has tried to escape. And so they put massive security on him and around him to want to watch him, right? And the last key point, he spent much of his time meeting with lawyers, filling appeals. How you spell it?
Appeals.
Appeals before being killed, and yeah.
Yeah, kind of continuing off what Diego said, one of the questions is evaluate how actions in one stage could affect the other ones. Coming back to the prison part, he escaped 2 times. I think it was said.
Yeah,
I
and there was other attempts
yeah.
too.
I don't know. Personally, I think if we knew like, well, we kind of knew like what he was being charged with, like burglary, kidnapping, and I think even like sexual assault. Like I personally, a judge would have put him at least to like maximum or like at least more of a secure place. Where,
Especially like at the first, like the beginning, and then as it went on, where he had already escaped, Supermax would have been a much more fitting
yeah,
area for him.
yeah. I feel that if we would have done that in the beginning, it would have changed the whole course of the trial.
Yeah.
And not more victims would be, I guess, victimized. Yeah. Anything else, guys?
We have re-entry. Which kind of, yeah, this was kind of if it was an applicable thing, which is why we tried to find a case that would be applicable for that, because Ted Bundy went through the justice system several times. Like he did have stuff that was, I think he had a couple that were dropped, right? Or did he not ever have one that was dropped?
I don't think so.
Because the evidence kind of was pretty overwhelming most of the time.
Yeah.
But he did escape multiple times. So like this first one, he escaped from this first one. Then he goes back in, after getting more convictions. Then he escapes again, and then he gets put back in after even more convictions.
Yeah.
And that's already on top of kidnapping, sexual assault, murder, homicide. Now he has evading the law and stuff like that being stacked on, which is really just kind of icing on the cake here of a very big cake.
Yeah.
That was pretty much all we had for really re-entry. Re-entry was kind of one we kind of left blank and we kind of just fill in as we went.
Yeah, like we mentioned, he escaped multiple times. Not only that, multiple other states wanted him. Like we focused on the main one that was very Utah. That kind of caked up most of his this is the guy we're looking for. Like I said, he also had Washington, Colorado, Florida, and all of those still needed to take their piece of the cake.
Yeah.
That Jansen mentioned there. Yeah. Is that it really for?
I think we went over
basically because adding more to this, how I was saying how Buddy was arrested more than once in different states. In Colorado, he had another pretrial in 1977. He moved to Colorado to face a murder charges, and that was a big one. Also, judges said that wasn't enough evidence for a trial, and then but Brody escaped by jumping out a courthouse window during pretrial, and that was a big problem.
It's gonna be a fast dude at that point. You're getting chased by everyone at that point.
So he has a lot behind his tail. So
yeah. But I think that's about everything we have on the step-by-step and the complex journey through the justice system, presentation 3.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
All right.